if you could commit a crime and get away with it, what would you do?
Boy, I mean, it would have to be financial, wouldn't it? You know?
A financial crime?
Just with
like
the needs
embezzlement?
that we all have.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably embezzle from the public library I work at.
Oh, this is way realer than I thought, Emily. This is a whole fantasy world, and you stuck within the bounds of
Kyle,
your actual real job.
There's billions of dollars going through my library. You don't understand the cash cow I'm sitting on.
I forgot you work for the Public Library of Monaco.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Welcome to Butter No Parsnips. Every week on Butter No Parsnips, your hosts Kyle Imperator and Emily Moyers take you on an adventure through the weird, wacky, wonderful, and sometimes even wicked world of one wayside word. Strange characters, delightful bits, and general joyousness abound. Join them as they test each other's etymological expertise.
Hey everybody, welcome to Butter No Parsnips. I'm Emily Moyers.
And I'm Kyle Imperator. And today, I embezzled a word for you from the dictionaries of past, of Monaco. We're really going for Monaco this episode.
Tell me this Monacan word.
This Monacan word. Emily, it's so Monica, you're gonna be Rachel about it. Your word today, Emily, is Infangthief. 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 And not, as Google kept correcting me, infant thief. I think I have the CIA on my tail now.
I was gonna say, are those the allegations you're currently facing?
They got a lot of free babies in Monaco.
That's what you're embezzling. Infangthief, I hate this.
Infangthief, I know, that's why I picked it.
Awful.
Yeah.
What? I can't even... Okay, wow. So, this must have... By the fact that it has the word thief in it, it must have formed in English, right?
Yes, yeah. You got it right.
Yeah. But what the heck?
That's a good sense there.
Infang. What part of speech is this? Is it a noun?
It is a noun, Emily.
Yeah. Can it be anything else?
It can't be anything else, but I've got bad news. It's an uncountable noun.
It's the concept of Infangthief. That you can't have Infangthieves?
No Infangthieves, nope.
That's so much worse.
I
know. Because thief is only a countable noun.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. I wish there was something I could do about it. But...
Yeah, how are you going to fix this, Kyle?
I gotta talk to the boss.
All right, let me take one stab at it. Infangthief is... Maybe by thief it means like theft. It is stealing the okay, yeah, here we go. This is going to be the winner right here. It is stealing the teeth of, but just the canines, out from under children's pillows when they've left them for the tooth fairy.
You think we needed a word for that?
I do. I absolutely do. And I think that's it. So stop beating around the bush, Kyle. Play the music.
I mean, Emily, there's a lot of right things in what you said, but none of them add up to a right answer. I'll say that.
I desperately need a hint.
Your hint, Emily, is justice.
Can we cancel this episode?
I mean, listen, wouldn't be the first time I've been canceled.
Infangthief is the act of getting away with a crime?
Emily, I love the thought process. Honestly, some really good swings at this word, which is nearly impossible to guess.
It's incredible to me that my first swing was you're labeling it as good, and I'm now desperately curious to hear what it is.
Yeah, you're going to see why. Your second swing, Emily, is wrong. It's actually quite the opposite of what Infangthief is. Emily, Infangthief is the right of a lord to try and punish a thief caught within the bounds of his property.
Okay, sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. Just my land's my law.
My lands, my law.
Papa John's.
Ozempic. Yeah, you got it, Emily. So, if you haven't already guessed, the word is a compound of 3 words. In and thief are the 2 obvious words.
Yeah, those I feel like I can suss out.
Yeah, and it's just what those words mean. In and thief as in the criminal, right?
In like within, in the bounds of.
Yeah, I was going to go into a whole diatribe about how in is used as a prefix in Old English, but we know what in means. Like it's used the same now.
Right.
Fang, though, is the curveball here, right?
Yeah.
So fang comes from the Old English verb fangen, meaning seized or taken, and it was a past participle of fon, meaning to catch, capture, or seize.
Why is this ringing a bell to me? As soon as you said fangin, it sounded familiar.
I mean, you've probably read it in Old English. It was an Old English word. Like it was used often.
And we do, I mean, in doing this podcast, I do spend a lot of time looking at old words. So
fawn, what fangen comes from, the origin of that word is hazy. It either comes from the Proto-Indo-European root pech, meaning to join or to attach, or it comes from the pre-Germanic ponk, which was apparently a univerbation of the Proto-Indo-European words hippo, meaning off or away, and hinek, meaning to reach, to attain.
You so talking to me, ponk?
Ponk? Like the idea of a pre-Germanic ponk.
Yeah,
you know?
Like he is wearing like a draped fur dress, but it's in all black with like pink streaks.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly it. So Emily, when you were talking about teeth earlier, you're not far off.
I'm scared now.
Yeah. So the fang that a dog or snake might have is related here. It's an abbreviation of the word fangtooth from the Old English Infangthief, meaning molar or canine tooth, or literally snag tooth or catch tooth, because the tooth would catch on things.
Oh, that's fun.
Isn't that fun?
That's super fun. Snag tooth.
So Emily, Infangthief then literally means thief seized within. And it was a privilege given to feudal lords in medieval Europe. And when I say given, I mean, back then, legal rights were literally granted to men by the king.
As was the lordship.
I was just going to ask, Emily, what do you remember about feudalism? Hopefully it's more than I had hoped.
I feel like a lot because I world build D&D.
Yeah, I mean, to regale us with some
so,
of it, please.
Like, the sovereign is like, you can have this area here. This is yours. You have it. And then he says, okay, my tenants, you can have these areas here, but you do what I tell you. And then the tenants are like, you peasants, you can farm this land here, but you do what I tell you.
Yep. Emily, wow.
Sovereignty
Beautiful.
all the way down.
It's all wrapped up for me. Thank you so much. So it gets dicey because there's a lot of meshing of cultures. Feudalism, first of all, was a societal structure used in Europe from the 9th to 15th century, so it's a very long time that it was used. And it dictated certain legal, economic, and political customs by which people lived. There was a Norman invasion during that time, so the French brought ideas to England. There was the concept of manorialism with manors that got involved with feudalism. So there's lots of different laws that kind of connect at this point.
And there's also, maybe it's just that we use the same word and it's not necessarily the same system, but there's also feudal Japan.
Yes, I think that is same word, different system.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think. But yes. So the word feudalism, Emily, is actually unrelated to the modern feud, meaning rivalry. And instead, it's derived from the fiefs, F-I-E-Fs, or pieces of land, which were the major units around which feudalism was structured. And both feudalism and fief are perhaps derived from an old Frankish word meaning cattle or livestock. Broadly speaking, the king granted fiefs to lords, as you so eloquently put it earlier, and the lords would enter into contracts with men who were called vassals, from the Latin vassus, meaning servant, or sometimes they were called tenants, as you said, from the Latin teneo, meaning to hold or keep. Emily, you took Italian, right, in school?
I did. It was a long while ago, but...
You may remember the Italian verb tenere, meaning to hold. For those of you who took Spanish, tener means to hold. That's where we get tenant from, to hold.
Because they hold a piece of land?
A piece of land, yeah. Now, these men would be allowed to live on the land in exchange for offering some type of service. For example, knights were often vassals, protecting a lord in exchange for the land that they lived on. Now, lord wasn't necessarily an official title. Some lords, called mean lords, M-E-S-N, mean.
M-E-S-N?
M-E-S-N.
It looks like a typo.
It does look like a typo. It's from the old French word for middle. So they're like middle lords, mean lords. And they were directly in charge of the land, but themselves were vassals to more powerful lords called lords paramount or overlords.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And so this distinction is where we get the modern term landlord and its relation to contemporary tenants.
Sure. They're the lord of the land.
They're the lord of the land.
That's right.
And they can't fix my darn refrigerator.
They love painting over hinges.
That's actually, we get that from feudal Europe as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if you could believe it.
They paint all the doorknobs.
So, Emily, as a part of a lord's charter, the king would grant him legal rights, such as Infangthief. Sir James Fitzjames Stephen, real guy's name,
love it,
writes in his A History of the Criminal Law of England that rights like Infangthief were a check upon crimes of violence, instituted out of a fear of private vengeance, which rapidly degenerated into private war, bloody feuds, and anarchy. So there wasn't laws at this time, right? And kings were trying to find a way to not have people revolt against them.
Sure. So if you farm out your law enforcement to other people, then they don't get mad at you. They get mad at the underling.
You got it, Emily.
That makes sense.
Wow. Are you a sovereign king?
I am sovereign, yes. This is like my weekly headache. This is hitting very close to home.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring work to work, you know?
Yeah, man, this is my time off.
So, Emily, originally, Infangthief applied to any thief caught on the lord's property. But over time, the jurisdiction narrowed to only thieves who were the lord's own tenants.
Sure. Otherwise, they would have to be extradited.
Yeah, well, more on that later.
Okay.
And then, even further, this right was restricted to only include thieves who were caught in the act.
Oh.
Which is, actionable.
Yeah. It's not, you can't say, we think you did this yesterday.
Yes, right. It was like, dude, this is
red-handed.
Yeah, honestly, I was going to do a whole thing on red-handed. Eventually, in Scotland, they would use the phrase red-handed, and that gets back to our episode Humdungeon, when I talked about how Sir Walter Scott invented caught red-handed, but that's a whole nother thing.
It's fun, though.
So, Emily, if a thief was found to be hand-habend, H-A-N-D-H-A-B-E-N-D, or having the stolen thing in hand...
That's like the precursor to red-handed.
This is exactly where we get it from. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. Or they were found to be backberend, B-A-C-K-B-E-R-E-N-D, meaning bearing the stolen object upon their back. Yeah.
I love that there's two different words. If you had it in your pack, it's not in your hand. We need a separate word.
I mean, you can't call it the same thing. It's not in their hand.
Yeah,
they're not called red-handed. They're called red-backed.
Red-backed.
Yeah. So if they're found hand-habend or backberend, a lord's court with the right of Infangthief was allowed to punish them. It would be through fines called amercements if they were men of rank. If they weren't, if they were poor, it would be punished through execution. More on that later as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tonight at 11.
And a thief that was taken with handhabend was naturally called a Infangthief.
Absolutely.
Of course.
That follows naturally. Infangthief.
Emily, some lords also had the right of Infangthief. The existence of this right wasn't attested until the first half of the 12th century, but it was in a couple of spurious and possibly forged charters. And then after that, in the 13th century, sources are conflicted as to exactly what sorts of rights Infangthief afforded a lord.
So that's thieves outside of your fiefdom?
Well, that's the thing. We don't know. It may have referred to the jurisdiction of a lord over one of his own tenants caught thieving elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Or it may have been interpreted as dealing with a lord catching another lord's vassal stealing on their property. But even the Old English legal experts just couldn't agree. We just don't know. But interestingly enough, Emily, sometimes a thief apprehended in this manner was called an Infangthief, but the same naming convention was never used for Infangthief.
Never referred to the person. That's so weird, because it just seems like it would follow logically.
Right? Like, just it would happen that someone would accidentally use it that way.
Yeah, with how fluidly people used words and spellings, it seems crazy.
But Emily, the two rights are often written about together as Infangthief and Infangthief.
Not in and out fang thief.
Not in and out fang thief. That's a burger thief.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's if you catch them burger in hand.
Burger in hand, yeah. Burger hand happened.
Burger happened.
So, Emily, in linguistics, we call pairs like Infangthief and Outfangthief, or washer and dryer, or short and sweet, irreversible binomials, because they are pairs of words with a fixed order that form an idiomatic expression.
You would never say dryer and washer.
Not unless you were being cheeky.
Not unless you wanted to feel the way you feel when you pat a dog the wrong way.
Yes.
Just
exactly.
like, ugh.
So Old English charters are filled with many different irreversible binomials that are representative of legal rights, often in list form, which we call legal doublets. For instance, legal scholar George Williams Keaton, in describing the feudal rights of a medieval bishop of London and a dean of St. Paul's, states, "They claimed soke and sake, toll and team, Infangthief and Outfangthief."
Love it. What was his name again?
George Williams Keaton.
Is that multiple people of the rank William Keaton?
Yes, Keaton? The George Williams Keaton. Exactly. They were all lords paramount. Could you believe it?
Kyle and I have been obsessed with phrases where you pluralize the first word and not the second.
It's the best kind of word formation, and we should do it more.
We should do it with everything.
Yeah. So from that list of rights, Emily, toll and team, that's T-O-L-L and team, T-E-A-M. Toll refers to the right of a lord to impose a payment on the sale of goods on his land. A toll, right?
Yeah, like a tax. Yeah.
Like a tax. And team relates to a lord's rights in getting back stolen property. The word that team comes from is like cattle. So it's like the idea the property to speak of was originally like farm animals.
Right. Sure.
Then there's soak and sake, or sock and sack, S-O-C and S-A-C. And these refer to the right of a lord to hold his own court without referring to other courts. Sake comes from the Old English sacan, meaning to fight, to argue, or to accuse, and soak from the Old English socken, meaning a seeking. And the coincidence there is real because soak and seek both share a Proto-Germanic root. The term sockage S-O-C-A-G-E.
That's not a word.
It's a word, soccage, or the feudal duty and form of land tenure by which a tenant farmer did agricultural work for a landlord, derives from the right of sock, or the right of soak, and thus a soccager or a soakman was thus a tenant under the soak of a landlord in their soakland or jurisdiction.
There's too many socks and soaks.
Socks and soaks and sakes and sacks. And I won't say the other one.
6. The other one.
Yeah, it was definitely 6. Yeah. Emily, soccage existed even in America's youth. The royal charter granted to William Penn, namesake and founder of Pennsylvania, saw him in free and common soccage, yielding and paying therefore to us 2 beaver skins to be delivered at our said castle of Windsor on the 1st day of January every year.
How long do you think that lasted?
Probably literally like 6 years, and then I think the revolution broke out.
You think like the first year into the revolution, he was sat there like, oh, should I? Boy, it really feels like rude to not, like, it's really going to sever the friendship if I don't show up with the 2 beaver skins.
I don't bring the beaver skins, but it's so far. Is it worth the trip?
And then it's like, it feels like I'm
George
undercutting.
Gonna be mad at me?
Yeah, like am I undercutting the war effort?
Yeah.
But it's a tradition, it hurts to break a tradition.
Well, also, William Penn was a Quaker, so he probably was super anti-war to begin with.
Oh, that's true. Then maybe he did. You think he went in secret?
In secret? He secreted the beavers.
George, don't tell anyone.
Speaking of Georges, Emily, George Ruggles wrote a 1615 farcical college play titled Ignoramus, which satirizes the absurdity of these words when the titular character is accused of summoning demons, is suspected to be possessed, and is ultimately exorcised.
And that's Mr. Ignoramus?
Mr. Ignoramus, yes. The Ignoramus.
The capital T, capital I.
Yeah. So Ignoramus, when speaking of his love, Rosabella, states, "If she had loved me, I would have given her many privileges. Infangthief, outfangthief, tack, talk, toll and team," which prompts Father Cola to respond, "What a company there are! I conjure you all depart, Ninantef, Nonantef, tack, talk, toll and team. I exorcise all you wicked spirits."
Ninantef, Nonantef?
Yeah, I think he just misheard it or didn't get it.
Just flubbed it.
Emily, there are so many more of these legal doublets that I wish I could talk with you about, but I can't. But I've got one last set of rights that I have to bring up, and it's the rights of pit and gallows, or furca and fossa. What do you think this refers to?
Okay, well, those sound like 2 very different things. Pit and gallows sound like a bumbling pair of British
Keystone
I'm
Cops.
gonna say yeah, detectives. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what was the other one you said? Farrah Fawcett?
Furca and fossa. You say Farrah Fawcett? Good.
Furca and Fossa are 2 little, like, gremlin children.
That are like a circus act.
Yes.
Like the pill bugs from A Bug's Life.
That's exactly what I was picturing.
Yeah.
My immediate thought was like 2 little troll girls on top of each other's shoulders.
Yeah. Furca and fossa. So, Emily, these were forms of punishment that lords were given the authority to use. Pit and gallows, furca and fossa. Fossa comes from the Latin for a ditch, and was a shortening of the phrase fossa terra, meaning dug up earth, which was translated as pit in English. And these pits were especially used in Scotland as a form of punishment.
Like buried alive or just sitting in a pit?
God, it's so much worse, Emily.
Ugh.
The pit in question was alternatively called a drowning pit, drowning pool, murder pool, or murder hole. And it was a punishment exclusively reserved for women and girls.
Of course it was. Of course it was.
The even worse part is, Emily, We don't know why.
Because they're witches, Kyle.
Because there were some scholars have guessed that maybe it was less violent, seen as less violent.
They don't have
hanging.
to confront the fact that they're killing a woman.
And it was like these drowning pits were like 80-foot deep bodies of water at the bottom of a hill that they would just toss them down the hill to drown in. It was bad.
Yikes. Big yikes.
Then the other one, furca, comes from a Latin fork-shaped punishment device similar to a gallows. And gallows comes from a Proto-Indo-European root meaning rod or pole, and the plural resemblance of the word possibly refers to the physical construction of multiple beams. The gallows, of course, Emily, which you know is a device for hanging men, right?
Yeah.
Was reserved specifically for punishing men, and in some charters it's explicitly stated that its purpose was for exercising the rights of Infangthief and Outfangthief. So the reason to give the rights of furca and fossa were so that Infangthief and Outfangthief could be exercised.
I think historically they hanged people who did the crimes that they most wanted to discourage, because then you'd leave the body hanging and say this is what you shouldn't do because this is what'll happen.
Emily, perfect segue. Doing that exact thing, leaving a live or dead criminal hanging, is called gibbeting, Gibbeting, and it was an extension of the rite of furca and fossa. And at the Manor of Wakefield, the local Halifax gibbet law extended this rite even further because the Halifax gibbet was just an early guillotine.
So you'd display a headless corpse?
It wasn't even display. It was just the publicness of it.
Okay.
So we don't know exactly when this gibbet was constructed, but regardless, beheadings as a punishment in Halifax date back to 1286. The town was populated by weavers who left their cloths out to dry, which attracted, quote, the wicked and ungovernable. And the common theory among scholars is that Infangthief and Outfangthief was used on these thieves of cloth because they were often caught with the cloth in their hands.
Sure. This might be a dumb question, but I just want to check. We're talking about Halifax, Nova Scotia, or a different Halifax?
We're talking about Halifax in West Yorkshire, England,
okay.
Emily.
Got you. Thank you.
So the last beheading in Halifax was in 1650, when Lord Protector Oliver Cromwell deemed the gibbet too violent and had it dismantled. But this was long after the practice of gibbeting, of that sort of crime had been abandoned elsewhere, meaning the Halifax gibbet was one of the last practical vestiges of Infangthief.
Wow.
Yep.
In 1650 some?
In 1650. I think that's the year Bach died. So
so just put that in context with all of everyone's intimate knowledge of composers' lives and deaths.
Yeah. So Emily, wrapping up here.
Yeah.
The shortened words infang and outfang have also been used to refer to these rites. And infang, perhaps constructed separately from in and fang, has been used in Scottish English as a verb meaning to draw or take in, or to cheat, or to seize.
Like to intake, sort of.
Yeah, like a swindler at a casino might. You know?
Yeah.
Infangthief has mostly been used in medieval charters or books on legal history, which doesn't make it easy to use in a sentence, but one example from Philip J. Davis and Reuben Hirsch's 1980 book, The Mathematical Experience, might help you today, Emily. In discussing the importance of the aesthetic qualities of patterns in math, the authors realize that blindness to this element can account for a feeling that mathematics is as dry as dust, as exciting as a telephone book, as remote as the laws of Infangthief of 15th century Scotland.
That's a fair way to use it.
Fair, right? Now, Emily, will you do us the favor and help make Infangthief relatable by using it in a sentence?
I feel like I can. I may just
I
need
would
a
love
hot sack. Okay. One could say that Batman exercises a sort of Infangthief over what he considers his domain, Gotham.
All hail Emily, the most beneficent ruler. She has done it. Emily, incredible. What a great use of Infangthief.
Thank you.
Probably the best ever, honestly. So, thank you.
I mean, it's sort of not, because Batman doesn't have the right to.
Shut up, Emily. I have the right to keep you from talking.
Never, Kyle. I liked this word. This was a good word. This was cool stuff. I like digging into some ancient England, you know? It's kooky. It's fun. It's creepy.
Fun. It's creepy. It is creepy. Emily, I would now like to exercise the right for us to play a game. How do you feel about that?
Accepted.
Emily, your game today is called Double Jeopardy. So, Emily, there are plenty of legal doublets that we use in modern parlance.
Ooh.
And so, as a mini LSAT, I'll give you the meaning of a few, and you'll have to guess the phrase.
Okay. Can I count this as the bar? Can I practice law after this?
Yes, you can. Okay, Emily, your first clue is invalid, cancelled, or unenforceable.
And there's a pair of words that mean
Pair
this?
of words, yep.
Invalid? Null and void?
Null and void, Emily, so good. Oh, you're going to breeze through these.
We'll see.
Okay. Emily, your next one is a demand to stop doing something immediately.
Cease and desist.
Cease and desist, see? Wow.
Oh, maybe I am.
Emily, you're going to be a lawyer today.
Amazing.
Emily, your next one is the crime of gaining unlawful passage into another's property.
Breaking and entering?
Breaking and entering, Emily. Wow. 3 for 3. I got 2 more headed at you, okay?
Ooh, I'm excited.
A specification of restrictions for the use of goods or services.
This one's vague.
This one's vague.
Oh, terms and conditions?
Terms and conditions, Emily.
So gratifying.
It is really gratifying.
You're building me up right now.
Emily, you're 4 for 4, and I have a feeling you're going to get this last one.
Okay.
This last one is the strict enforcement of statutes and social conventions, or dun-dun.
I'm glad you gave that hint, because I was going to say crime and punishment, but it's law and order.
Law and order, Emily! Oh, Emily, you're 5 for 5. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Esquire. What are lawyers' titles?
That is. Yeah. It's Esquire.
There you go. Now you can run for Senate.
I can, and I will.
That settles that.
Kyle, I loved this word. I hope everybody did too. Guys, remember, you can watch us on YouTube at Butter No Parsnips. And you can find Butter No Parsnips on other social media like Facebook and Instagram at Butter No Parsnips Podcast and TikTok at Butter No Parsnips. And if you liked today's episode, consider giving us a 5-star rating or review wherever you heard us.
And if you really liked today's episode, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/butternoparsnips. Donating $5 or more gets you an exclusive access to Buttered Parsnips, our After Hours podcast.
Thanks so much to all of you. You help us make what we make.
And with that, I've been Kyle Imperator.
And I've been Emily Moyers, and this has been Butter No Parsnips.
Butter No Parsnips is produced by Seth Glicksman, Emily Moyers, and myself, Kyle Imperator. The main and accompanying themes were composed by Kyle Imperator.